There is a strange kind of unease that shows up when you start paying attention to your own family tree. You watch your grandparents, who worked steady jobs their whole lives, end up with a paid-off house and not much else. You watch your parents, who earned more than your grandparents ever did, end up house rich and cash poor with a garage full of stuff. You watch your older cousins, the ones who traveled everywhere and posted about it, hit 40 with a passport full of stamps and a retirement account that looks like a typo. And then you look at the kids 10 years younger than you, the ones with the perfect apartments and the perfect outfits and the perfect coffee photos, and you realize they are somehow already further behind than your cousins were. 4 generations, 4 different versions of life, and yet the same quiet ending. Stuck, stretched, wondering where the money went. That is not bad luck repeating itself. That is one mistake repeating itself in different costumes. And once you see the costume for what it is, you cannot unsee it. My name is Evend, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, human psychology, and why some people seem to glide through financial challenges while others are constantly stressed about their bank account balance. If you have ever wondered why generation after generation of Americans seem to repeat the same financial pattern even when their circumstances look completely different, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps clarify things for you. Here is the mistake, stated as plainly as I can make it. Every generation chases the visible signal of wealth instead of the invisible reality of it. The signal changes by decade. The mistake does not. That sentence sounds simple, almost too simple, but sit with it for a minute. Because once you really understand it, the whole pattern of the last 70 years of American financial behavior suddenly makes sense. And you stop being confused about why so many people who should be doing well are quietly drowning. Before I walk you through how each generation fell into this, I want to explain something that took me a long time to understand. The reason this trap repeats is not because people are stupid. The reason it repeats is because the trap is invisible from the inside. When everyone around you is making the same trade, that trade stops feeling like a trade. It just feels like life. If your whole street is putting in a swimming pool stops feeling like a luxury. If everyone in your friend group is taking 2 big trips a year, 2 big trips a year stops feeling like a splurge. If your entire feed is full of people in nice apartments, wearing nice clothes, drinking nice coffee, that level of spending stops feeling like spending. It feels like the baseline. It feels like the floor. Your peer group becomes your reality, even when that reality has nothing to do with the math. And the math is the only thing that actually decides whether you build wealth or not. So you can be doing exactly what feels normal, exactly what everyone you know is doing, and still be making the same financial mistake your grandparents made, just with a different label on it. Let me show you what I mean by walking through each generation in turn. And I want you to do something while I do this. I want you to notice that the math under the surface is almost identical in every case. Only the wrapping paper changes. Let us start with the boomers, because the trap had its cleanest, most respectable form there. For the generation that came of age between roughly 1946 and 1964, the visible signal of having made it was the house. The single-family home with the lawn, the driveway, the garage, the quiet street. After the war, America fell in love with that picture, and the entire culture lined up behind it. Banks made it possible. Highways made it accessible. Television made it aspirational. By the time the average boomer was 30, owning a home was not just a financial choice, it was the proof that you had crossed the line from struggling to settled. So an entire generation poured their savings, their salary, their identity, and their future into a single asset. And that asset did, in many cases, go up in value. So at the surface level, it looked like the strategy worked. But here is what the photos from those decades quietly hide. A huge percentage of boomers ended up with most of their net worth locked inside the walls they were living in. They had real wealth on paper. They could not actually use it. Selling the house meant uprooting their life. Borrowing against the house meant paying interest on the wealth they already owned. The retirement accounts were thin. The investment accounts were thinner. The emergency fund was a stretch. You could be a boomer who looked completely successful from the outside, with the nice house and the nice car and the nice yard, and still be living paycheck to paycheck inside that house. Because the house was eating most of the income. The mistake was treating the visible signal, ownership, as the whole financial plan, instead of as one piece of a larger plan. Picture 2 friends who started their careers in the early 1970s, both earning roughly the same modest middle-class income their entire working lives. Call them Rich Richard and Poor Peter. Both of them bought houses in the same neighborhood. Both of them stayed married. Both of them retired in their mid-60s. Poor Peter put every dollar he could into the house. He upgraded twice. He renovated the kitchen, then the bathroom, then the basement. He stretched to afford each upgrade and told himself the house would always be his retirement plan. By the time he stopped working, his house was worth around $600,000. His investment accounts had less than $50,000 in them. His monthly expenses, with property taxes and maintenance, ate most of his Social Security. He was a millionaire on paper if you really squinted, but in real life, he could not afford to fly out and visit his grandkids without thinking about it for a week. Rich Richard bought a smaller house in the same neighborhood and stayed in it. He did not renovate. He did not upgrade. The kitchen was fine. The bathrooms were fine. He sent the difference every month to a boring index fund. His house at retirement was worth around $400,000. His investment accounts had over $600,000 in them. His monthly expenses were small enough that his Social Security alone covered them, and the investments were extra. He flew out and saw his grandkids whenever he wanted. Same income, same neighborhood, same 40 years of work. Two completely different lives. The difference was that poor Peter chased the visible signal of arrival. Rich Richard quietly built the invisible reality of it. Now, move forward one generation, the trap put on a new costume. For Gen X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980, the visible signal shifted. Owning a home was still part of it, but it was not enough on its own anymore. The new signal was lifestyle. The dual income household, the second car, the kids in good schools with their own activities and their own gear, the kitchen renovation, the basement renovation, the deck, the vacation that was nicer than last year's vacation. Each upgrade made sense individually. Each one felt earned. Each one was justified by the raise that came that year. And here is the quiet trap underneath all of it. When you let your spending expand to match every raise, your savings rate never moves. The number you earn keeps going up, but the number you keep stays exactly the same as a percentage. You feel richer because the lifestyle is richer. The math says you are not. A typical Gen X household in their 40s might be earning twice what their parents earned at the same age and saving roughly the same percentage their parents saved. So in dollar terms, they are doing more, but in identity terms, they are running the same script. The signal is louder. The mistake is the same. Let us put Rich Richard and poor Peter in this generation for a second. Same income, same age, same general life setup. 2 cars, 2 kids, suburban house. Poor Peter let the lifestyle expand. Every raise turned into a slightly nicer car. Every bonus turned into a slightly nicer vacation. The kitchen got the granite countertop. The driveway got repaved. The kids got every camp and every sport and every gadget. By 45, his lifestyle required almost every dollar he earned, and his investment accounts looked thin compared to his income. He felt wealthy. The bank statement said something different. Rich Richard kept the lifestyle frozen. Same car for 10 years. Same vacations, but cheaper. Same kitchen, no granite. He sent the raises to the index fund instead of the driveway. By 45, his lifestyle still cost what it cost when he was 35, but his income had nearly doubled. The gap between the two was the difference, and that difference compounded into a quiet fortune that nobody on his street even knew about. You can probably guess the generation that comes next. For millennials, born roughly between 1981 and 1996, the cultural moment was different. The boomer signals had become unaffordable. A starter home, the kind their parents bought at 30, was suddenly out of reach for most of them at 30. Wages did not keep up with housing costs. Student debt arrived at the worst possible time. The traditional path of buy a house, settle down, build equity was either delayed by a decade or closed off entirely for a huge slice of the generation. So the signal moved. If you could not afford the house, you could afford the experience. The trip to Iceland, the food at the new place that just opened, the festival in the desert, the brunch, the cocktail bar, the full passport, the story you would tell at the next dinner, and the culture caught up immediately. The whole vocabulary of money for the millennial generation pivoted toward experiences. You only live once. Memories matter more than things. Travel is the best investment in yourself. Houses are a trap anyway. Money is meant to be enjoyed. I want to be careful here because some of those statements have a kernel of truth in them. Memories really do matter. Experiences really can be more meaningful than possessions. There is real wisdom inside that worldview. The problem is that the wisdom got stretched to cover a financial mistake. When you spend on experiences while neglecting your investment accounts, you are not enlightened. You are just using a more poetic version of the same mistake every generation makes. You are chasing the visible signal of having arrived, the signal that says, look at the life I live, and skipping the invisible reality, the part nobody can see, the part that determines whether you have any options when you turn 50. The full passport is a beautiful thing. It is also, financially, the same costume poor Peter was wearing in 1975. Different fabric, same costume. Drop our two characters into the millennial era. Same income, late 20s, both single, no kids yet. Poor Peter spent every dollar on the experience. 2 big trips a year, 3 or 4 small trips a year. The new restaurant every weekend. The festival every summer. The concert tickets that cost as much as a car payment. By 35, his Instagram looked unbeatable, and his investment account had less than $10,000 in it. Rich Richard traveled, just less. He did 1 big trip a year instead of 2. He went to the new restaurant once a month instead of every weekend. He skipped the festival every other year. He sent the difference automatically into the index fund. By 35, his Instagram was less impressive, and his investment account was over $100,000. He still had a great life. He just did not perform it. This is a good place to pause for a second. If this is making you uncomfortable in a useful way, if you can see yourself in any of these characters, hit that subscribe button and stick with me, because the next part is the one that hits closest to home for the youngest viewers. And the part after that explains how to actually break the pattern. Now, we get to Gen Z, born roughly between 1997 and 2012. And here is where the trap gets almost too obvious to miss, except it is happening so fast and so visibly that nobody seems to be calling it what it is. Gen Z is, by access to information, the most financially literate generation in American history. They know what compound interest is. They know what an index fund is. They know what a Roth IRA is. They know what their savings rate should be. They post about it. They make content about it. They share spreadsheets. They watch videos like this one. And they are still falling into the trap. The signal moved one more time. If boomers performed wealth through houses, and Gen X performed wealth through lifestyle, and millennials performed wealth through experiences, Gen Z is performing wealth on a screen. The aesthetic of the apartment, the outfit that suggests a higher income than the income, the cafe where they spend their lunch break, the curated photo grid that suggests a person with more money than they have. There is a particular cruelty to this version of the trap because the costs are so much higher than the visible items would suggest. To dress like someone who earns $120,000 a year while earning $50,000 requires either debt or a savings rate of 0. To live in an apartment that photographs like that costs the entire raise that was supposed to fund the IRA. The investment account that the videos talk about ends up holding less than a single month of rent in many cases. Drop our characters into right now. Same age, mid-20s, same modest entry-level salary in a high-cost city. Poor Peter spends to look the part. The clothes are nicer than the salary suggests. The apartment costs 45% of take-home pay. The coffee is from the place that photographs well. He invests $100 a month and posts about it like it is meaningful while spending $800 a month on the look. By the time he turns 30, he has roughly $6,000 invested and a very nice feed. Rich Richard ignores the feed. He has roommates for an extra year. He shops at the cheaper place. He drinks coffee at home most of the time. He invests $1,000 a month automatically the day his paycheck arrives. By 30, he has over $50,000 invested and a feed that looks completely unremarkable. Nobody looking at his profile would guess he is the wealthier of the two. That is the entire point. So here is the question worth sitting with. Why does this trap keep repeating generation after generation in different costumes, even when the people falling into it are smarter, better educated, and better informed each time around? The answer is psychological, not mathematical. Status is a hardwired human need. We are social animals. We sort ourselves into hierarchies whether we like it or not. And in a culture that runs on consumer signaling, wealth becomes a thing we signal with. The signal itself is just status with a price tag. Every generation thinks it is avoiding the previous generation's mistake. Boomers thought houses were the smart move because their parents wasted money on appearances. Gen X thought lifestyle was smarter than their parents being house poor. Millennials thought experiences were smarter than their parents being lifestyle creeped. Gen Z thinks digital aesthetics are smarter than the wasteful physical consumption of the generations before them. Each one feels like progress. Each one feels like enlightenment. But the trap is not the specific signal. The trap is prioritizing the signal over the substance. And as long as that pattern repeats, the costume change does not matter. The math grinds forward the same way regardless of what the photos look like. Here is the reframe that actually breaks the cycle. Real wealth is invisible by definition. If you can see it, somebody is paying for it. That is the simplest test you can apply, and it works in every decade. The visible signal of a paid-off mansion may or may not mean wealth. It might mean somebody is house poor. The visible signal of a luxury car may or may not mean wealth. It often means somebody has a car payment that is bleeding their savings rate dry. The visible signal of a perfect feed may or may not mean wealth. It usually means somebody is broke in private. But there is one signal that actually does correlate with wealth, and it gets very little airtime because it does not photograph well. It is what I call walk-away power. The ability to walk away from any job, any relationship, any city, any situation without financial fear. That is wealth. It is not the car or the apartment or the trip or the kitchen, even though those are the things people will compliment you on. You cannot post walk-away power. You cannot prove it to a stranger. It does not show up in a photograph. It only matters when something goes wrong, and then it matters more than anything else in your financial life. Boomers who had walk-away power could quit jobs they hated. Gen X, who had walk-away power, could weather layoffs without panic. Millennials who have walk-away power do not need a relationship or a city to work out. Gen Z, who builds walk-away power, can ignore the entire game everyone else is playing. If you only take one thing away from this video, take that. Real wealth is what you do not have to perform. It is the option to leave. It is the calm that comes from knowing you would be okay if everything went sideways tomorrow. Now, how do you actually build it? Because saying real wealth is invisible does not, by itself, build any. You also need a few simple rules that work across every generation, every income level, every decade. Here are the 3 I would give you. The first rule is to treat your savings rate as the only number that matters. Not your income, not your title, not your net worth at any given moment. Your savings rate. Income tells you how big the river is. Savings rate tells you how much of the river you actually keep. A person who earns $60,000 a year and saves 20% of it builds wealth faster than a person who earns $150,000 a year and saves 3% of it. The second person looks richer. The first person actually is over time. The second rule is to buy assets before you buy upgrades. An asset is anything that puts money back in your pocket. An upgrade is anything that takes money out. The mistake every generation makes is letting the upgrades come first and hoping the assets show up later. The fix is the opposite order. Fund the index fund this month, then decide what is left over for the upgrade. Fund the IRA this year, then decide what is left over for the renovation. Fund the future you automatically before the present you seize the money. The third rule is to make your wealth boring on purpose. The boring car, the boring apartment, the boring vacation, the boring portfolio. Boring is not deprivation, boring is freedom. Every dollar you do not spend on looking impressive is a dollar that quietly compounds in the background, building the only kind of wealth that actually matters. The people I know who are genuinely wealthy do not look it. The people I know who look wealthy mostly are not. That is not coincidence. That is the rule. Apply those 3 rules across 40 years and the costume changes around you do not matter. Boomer signals come and go. Gen X signals come and go. Millennial signals come and go. Gen Z signals come and go. The signals do not build wealth. The savings rate, the asset stacking, and the boring discipline do. Let me close with one last picture. Take Rich Richard and Poor Peter, both at 60 years old, both having earned the same income for 40 years. Poor Peter is sitting in a beautiful house he cannot afford to leave. The mortgage is technically paid off, but the property taxes are crushing. He has a nice car in the driveway with a payment still on it. He has a closet full of clothes he barely wears. His phone has thousands of photos of beautiful trips he took 10 and 20 years ago. His investment accounts have less than $200,000 in them. His monthly expenses are higher than his retirement income. He is going to keep working into his 70s, not because he wants to, but because he has to. Rich Richard is sitting in a small house with no payment, in a quiet neighborhood that nobody on Instagram would ever post about. He drives a paid-off car, he owns a boring closet, his investment accounts have over $1.5 million in them, his monthly expenses are tiny. He could stop working tomorrow and not feel a thing. He probably will not stop because he likes his life, but the option is sitting there in his account every single day. same income, same 40 years, same country, same economy, same opportunities, and the same setbacks. The only difference is that one of them spent his life chasing the visible signal of arrival, and the other one quietly built the invisible reality of it. The mistake repeats across generations not because people are stupid. It repeats because the costume always looks new. The boomer house, the Gen X kitchen, the millennial passport, the Gen Z feed. Each one feels like progress. Each one is the same trap in fresh packaging. The viewers who finally see the costume for what it is have already broken the cycle. They stop chasing the look and start building the reality. They become the quiet ones in their generation. The ones nobody on social media even notices. The ones who turn 60 with options instead of payments.